allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, a couple of announcements this evening. All of the board members are present for the meeting this evening. We do have a few joining us this evening via Zoom, and the rest of us are here in the room tonight, so we are all present. We did meet in executive session for approximately 20 minutes prior to this evening's meeting to discuss a confidential personnel matter and also two legal matters. And those are all of the announcements for tonight. We'll move on to the next section, citizens' comments to the board on agenda items. John, do we have any comments tonight on agenda items?
We'll spin the wheel here. Nope, no comments. A note to the folks at home, if you wish to make a comment to the school board, please go to our website at www.lasd.us and click on the survey link there to enter your comments through the SurveyMonkey link. We'll check again at the end of the meeting for any comments to the board on non-agenda items. Back to you, Jordan.
Thanks, John. We'll move on to the board representative comments. Chris, your name is up there at the top, so I'll start with you.
Thank you, Jordan. Good evening, everyone. October is Bullying Prevention Month, and our guidance counselor, Kelly Molyneux, has been our leader in promoting this with our students and our staff. So on Monday, we helped kick off our Stomp Out Bullying message. All students and staff wore blue on that day to give a message that we all stand against bullying. And Mrs. Molyneux has also shared out with teachers lessons and activities the students can do throughout the month to help promote the anti-bullying message. So thank you to Mrs. Molyneux. Also on Wednesday, Dr. Pollenschott came over to meet with a group of teachers, school psychologists, myself, Mrs. Kramer, and some other folks to talk about an MTSS process at Kelly. We sort of did an overview for her of what our MTSS efforts have been last year up until the COVID closure that happened, and to do some planning for some next steps, including some ways to use the Wednesday early dismissal days for professional development for the staff. And finally, tomorrow is Picture Day. It's a great day for all the kids to get dressed up for their individual pictures. We also wanted to include our e-school students. So like what Mr. Bennett had done over at Lintown, we set up a sign-up genius that we created for our families to come into several different slots during the course of the day, where they will be able to come in and have their pictures taken again for individual pictures and for the yearbook. So thanks to the PSA for helping us to set that up and for their help with some volunteers with Picture Day. Thank you very much. I'll turn it over to Mr. Bennett.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Rule. Just a few things from Lintown. Want to continue to echo the theme of thanks to the PSA. They came through the building the other day and dropped off styrofoam coffee cups with lids with nice messages that were printed out for the staff on the outside of those, and inside was some instant coffee and tea packets. And just really appreciated the effort to support our teachers and staff with all of their hard work in the midst of the pandemic, but coming back to school and everything that has entailed. It was just a nice gesture of them to include. I tried to add to that a little bit by bringing them in 5 dozen Krispy Kreme donuts this morning, and that was also well accepted. Along with that, just e-school, just wanted to give you a little update there. It's been a pretty big challenge, but also definitely worth doing. And seems like our two teachers, Mrs. Forsman and Mrs. Yoder at Lintown, have been doing a yeoman's effort in terms of work and working with parents and students, getting the tech bugs worked out from Mr. Strader's end, and appreciate that as well. But feel like they're getting to a point where their heads are starting to come above water and they're able to do a little bit more supplemental instruction and things of that nature, along with the curriculum that is provided through Accelerate Ed. Mrs. Forsman came to me today with an idea. She's going to have each of the different related arts teachers be a guest speaker for her eSchool students on a Zoom meeting, and they're going to have different topics. For example, Mr. Zeke is going to sing and share a little bit about music. So the eSchool kids, particularly the fourth graders who haven't met our related arts teachers, will be able to meet them and understand what they do, and hopefully have those familiar faces when they matriculate back into the building. I think she's going to wrangle me into being a guest speaker as well. So just one example of creativity and ways that we're trying to connect with students. And then finally, I just thought today we had an administrative team meeting this morning. Went from about 9:30 till 12:45 or so. And just wanted to specifically mention that Dr. Polinchak and Mrs. Moser, along with John and the rest of the tech team and the other principals, they're just very hardworking people and people that are doing a great job and going above and beyond. And that really means a lot to me, working alongside them and with them. And I greatly appreciate that. I know the board does too. So that just stuck out to me today, and I thought you guys might like to hear it. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Drozen.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. And I would echo those sentiments about the administrative team also. At the middle school, it's just a little bit different, and it dawns on me every now and then. One of my favorite times in the course of a kid's day would be when we do clubs and activities, and it's been kind of different. We're not able to do them like we normally would, but I'm reviewing my notes and see that our yearbook club met yesterday. The student council is active, and I saw a couple of student council speeches politicking for their positions. I mentioned, I think, before about our virtual math counts team has record numbers this year, and they're participating virtually on a regular basis. And Mr. Morgan has the DTV kids in professional grade production every morning. And it's just really neat to see some of these extra things that our kids are able to do, even if it is a little bit different than what we're used to. There was opportunity for some staff members to receive some Canvas training on Wednesday. And the rewarding part for me was that other staff members volunteered and to provide that training for their colleagues. It's not the easiest thing to do often to teach your fellow teachers, but they did a wonderful job. And in particular, Mr. Catherman and Mrs. Tidy, and we're trying to do the training by comfort level. So that staff are able to sign up for what level of instruction they want, where the help will come. I want to mention that Mrs. Strasser will be by next week to do winter sports signups, which I find absolutely amazing that we're at that point of the school year already. And the last thing, before I turn this over to Mr. Wetzel, I wanted to mention is to give a huge thank you to our school nurse, Stephanie Jackson, and working in conjunction with CVS to have flu shots administered to the faculty and staff at the building, saving them the trip to CVS, but more importantly, to give them the opportunity to have them at school so they are more likely, and we're more likely to sign up to get that done. And we wouldn't have had that opportunity if not for the hard work of Mrs. Jackson. Just wanted to say thanks to her. So that's what I have. And Mr. Wetzel, you are up.
Thank you, Mr. Drozen. Just to kind of piggyback off of what Mr. Drozen said, and really the theme, I think, of everyone rising to the occasion and working so hard, and just the team effort we have here. The nurses, I mean, yes, Stephanie taking on that task of organizing the flu shots, and also just kind of how their day-to-day procedures and work life has changed and altered, and the additional things they've taken on. They've done a tremendous job. They've just taken everything in stride and been phenomenal this year with additional things that are on their plate. And also with Mr. Drozen talking about winter sports signups, which is crazy to think about. That also means fall sports are nearing their end and heading into the postseason. We've actually had the golf teams finished districts last week. Boys won the golf districts as a team, and the girls finished in second. And then today, the boys actually were competing in states already for the team golf. So we're kind of drawing to an end of that, and it's been phenomenal in many ways that we've been able to see kind of a normalcy there. And sports are one of those things when you're there, seeing the kids out in their element, families there and friends to support them. It's been a phenomenal thing. Another thing this week was also SunTech was able to go back full time, which I know our students were really looking forward to. They had the hybrid model that they started the year off with. And then they were able to make the decision that October 5th, they could go full time. And our kids that have been there, it's been great. The morning arrival time, I feel like we have more time to really talk with the kids because they're coming in spread out. And I know Ms. Reber and myself, we really try to get around and interact with as many kids as possible. And our son kids that we've been able to talk to, both at arrival and dismissal, have really enjoyed their time there. And they were looking forward to being able to spend more time there and do the things that they're growing to love. Then the last thing that I have, another thing that's been really great that we're able to continue, we've been able to reach out to alumni to gauge their interest in being guest speakers. This is something we normally did in person. So we're just picking up in the COVID world here and doing it by Zoom. But just to continue, we have such a strong and supportive alumni foundation and alumni base that it's great for our kids to have these opportunities to network, to form connections, and to pick the brain of people that are out in the field and that are in the career paths and get to see kind of, what should I look for after high school? What are courses I should pursue in college? What are internships I should look for? Things that I need to keep in mind if I'm considering this career path. So in October, we actually have an alum that is the Assistant Vice President of Temple University. And he's going to talk about his journey through 30 years of college athletic administration at many universities and now being the Assistant Vice President at Temple. And then the one for November is Allison Bennett, who has a deal with 20th Century Fox Television and has built just an incredible resume working on different TV shows as executive producer and also movies. So just another tremendous opportunity for our kids and just the supportive alums that we have. It's a great connection and great thing that we're able to offer to them. And with that, I will pass it on to Ms. Reber.
All right, thanks, Eric. Last Saturday was just an amazing day that those moments felt so much like a Saturday should feel in October. We had our senior day for girls soccer. There was football that night, but really the highlight of the weekend, every year we do a fundraiser for the musical. Mrs. Tidy and Mr. Walls do it. It's called Broadway Bistro. And students sign up, they audition, and then perform numbers, individual or a partner number that's usually related to a Broadway show, directly from a Broadway show. And La Primavera usually caters it, and there's a dinner that goes on while the kids are doing it. And we really wanted to continue that, but to be able to do it safely. And so we had, I think it was 24 or 25 performances by students that were just amazing. It was held outside. They brought some staging and things and, sanitizing to make sure. Parents brought lawn chairs. They sat under the tent. They were socially distanced. And then they had their La Primavera meal already packaged in takeout to take home to enjoy. But these kids just blew me away with what they sang and their range. And it was really exciting to see some of the freshman talent that's coming into the high school. As you know, we're like, oh, we lost this one, but like, oh my goodness, look at this new one that's come. So that was just amazing to see that. And hopefully I'll have some links in my next newsletter that should be coming out over the weekend or next week to share. The Daily Item did a great article yesterday on our autistic support classroom, and it was really, really fun to read. One of our student, Dale's comments about how the pandemic has affected him. So that was really awesome to hear about that. As Mr. Drozen said, various activities are taking place. We have to think of different ways to do them, but our student council has met twice now via Zoom. We're going to be doing homecoming October 23rd, that week. So it'll incorporate some new events. It'll certainly have some traditional events like our spirit days. And then there's still some things we're working out, like how exactly we're doing the court. Now, given the new capacity again, we could possibly do that at the football game that night. So we're working out those final details. But I think the kids are really excited to be able to plan for something. And we also did our Canvas yesterday afternoon, Canvas training. We had a brief SAP meeting, our Students Assistance program, and then the teachers had their time to work on their Canvas pages. So on the 4 phases we had kind of set out and expectations, we did a quick survey with them to see kind of where they were at, what their comfort was, what their individual problems are, and then we could match them with people that knew how to fix those problems, or if it was something I needed to take forward. And I'm just really so very proud of the staff, because anytime that you're trying to learn something of this magnitude at the same time that you're, you know, trying to teach in the midst of a pandemic, no less, with all our new procedures, that's a major undertaking, and they have just really come together and have done a great job. And finally, our band tomorrow night is having a special event for their families. The band, unfortunately, has not been able to actually be at a football game other than one. One was because of some capacity things. Others were because of with us having to go all the way to Selinsgrove for the band to make that drive and play at 5 o'clock to such a limited group that would have been allowed in. It just really wasn't feasible for them. But they have a great program put together for tomorrow night. The kids are really excited, and they have been absolutely, I am so proud of the kids. Mr. Schwanger's leadership has been first rate during this, and constant changing plans and expectations, and sometimes disappointed students. He really has been outstanding with it. So that is all, but I think that's a lot. So back to you guys.
Thanks everyone for all the updates. It's always great to hear everything that's going on. We'll move on to our select presentations. We have our facilities review report tonight. Mr. Gallegos.
Can you guys all hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So what you guys should have in front of you somewhere is the facilities report for the 2019-2020 school year. To review some of the things that I like to kind of point out to you guys is we were able to get the middle school card access and Lintown card access done and completed, which is basically updating the keying system there at the middle school and at Lintown, which we were looking to do with the help of Kathy Moser and getting the PCCB grant. We were able to get that done. So The locks have all been, we're working on getting all of the locks changed out, but all that stuff is getting done, and we got everything upgraded there. And then the other thing to look at is with your approval, we were able to get the generators at the middle school and Kelly approved to be replaced. So that'll be taking place again this year. As with a lot of other things, it kind of got pushed back a little bit, but we were able to get that scheduled. So the middle school generator will be replaced sometime over Thanksgiving break. And then the Kelly backup generator will get replaced sometime over Christmas break. So we've got all that other stuff. We've got that all scheduled up. And then if you just look through some of the upcoming potential projects, there's kind of a whole list of things that we're looking to try to do over the next few years. So if you guys have any questions on any of that, I am here to answer those questions.
Any questions? All right. Delmer, thank you. We'll certainly continue to take a look at this, and if we have questions that come up, the board members will certainly reach out.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm available. So thank you.
All right, we'll now move into the action section of the meeting tonight. Under new business, we have the bipolar ionization project. Dr. Pollenchak, Dr. Fairchild, whoever wants to introduce
Turn it
us.
over to Mr. Fairchild.
Oh, sure. Well, just as a little bit of background, we did receive our deadline for RFQ submissions from qualified ESCO companies was yesterday afternoon at 2 o'clock. We did receive 4 of them from qualified ESCO companies. Dr. Pollenchak, myself, and Mr. Gallegos have been looking at the responses. The companies are looking very good so far. They're all very well qualified, and they seem to know what they're talking about. So we are looking forward to working with the ad hoc committee and mapping out the next steps forward for the HVAC modernization. As part of this project, kind of a subset, if you will, was the O2 prime, or generically the bipolar ionization project that we were looking at to improve the air quality in our 4 buildings here. As you are aware, the folks at Siemens gave us a estimate from last time of installing the O2 prime system in all 4 buildings of approximately $316,000 with 3 to 5 weeks of lead time to be done under an ESCO project. But the folks at McClure, when they saw our request for quotes, said, hey, we can offer you a needlepoint bipolar ionization product. It's actually the same thing that Siemens has from the same manufacturer. And they have offered us to do all 4 buildings with 3 to 5 week lead time under a CoStarz contract priced out at $239,456. So, and in case you're wondering, the Siemens numbers were based on an estimated 190 units. And the McClure proposal, they've been in our buildings before. They know our buildings, even though they're not, affiliated with us like Siemens is. They estimated at 163 units. And dividing the costs out, the Siemens estimated cost per unit is approximately $1,700. The McClure cost per unit is approximately $1,450. So McClure seems to have a line on the same product at a slightly lower price. So tonight, in talking with Dr. Pollenchak and Mr. Gallegos, we believe that it would probably be in the district's best interest for us to move ahead with the bipolar ionization portion of this project, and perhaps pulling it out, getting it done, and then the ad hoc committee, as well as the administration, would work together to solicit proposals, not just qualifications, but proposals from all 4 qualified vendors, and ask them, how would you go about modernizing our HVAC systems? And let them do the thinking and the brainstorming, and say, what do you propose? What systems would you have us do? What is your cost for installation? What would the savings be? How would you finance this? So that's generally our recommendation to the board this evening. Did I miss anything?
The McClure project would be a direct capital expenditure, but we have grant monies.
Yes.
Whereas the Siemens project we only have it as an ESCO project because there's like financing and stuff like that, but we didn't get a direct quote as if we were just, would it be the same price from Siemens with direct capital outlay?
No, I confirmed with Mr. Williamson that their price remains the same. If we went through them, it would still be $316,000.
Both financing and direct. Oh,
Yes.
So then, John, tonight you're looking for a motion to approve that purchase.
Yes, if the board, we have two offerings, one through CoStars from McClure and one through the ESCO from Siemens. So if the board is interested, if you would like us to move ahead with that, go ahead and make a motion, pick one, and we'll do our best to implement it as quickly as possible.
Is there a
Motion to approve the purchase of the bipolar ionization system from McClure at the cost of $279,456.
Second.
All right, so we have the motion moved by Dr. Jablonski, seconded by Mrs. Sprouse, to go with McClure for the stated price. Any discussion?
This is going to impact our ability to select the total HVAC in the hall. No, any company will take off these units and put them on.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, they are the exact same units
Yeah,
from.
I'm just wondering, so some people will guarantee they're rated as well and say, if they installed it, they'll take it off and replace it. So I wouldn't want to be switching.
Oh, no, and we would write this into our request for proposals to say, hey, we're implementing this needlepoint bipolar ionization system. You need to make it work with your new system.
And I would add, since we had this process in motion, we did consult with Mr. Finelli on exactly how to make sure that we're moving forward with this in the most appropriate fashion so that we're fair to all of the individuals or the companies that responded to your request for qualifications. As we see them all being done, this also gives the opportunity for the board to consider possible solutions and competitive pricing amongst these vendors. So that's positive for us.
Any other discussion?
I assume we're not looking at the other two because they were more expensive.
The other two companies actually didn't provide quotes or estimates for the bipolar ionization system. No. Yep, I checked their proposals. They didn't have anything. They talked about using it in the future, but they didn't provide like McClure and Siemens did separately. So.
All right, hearing no other discussion, roll call vote, please, Paula.
Dr. Zimmerman?
Yes.
Mrs. Sprouse?
Yes.
Mrs. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Fetzer?
Yes.
Mr. Heath?
Yes.
Dr. Jablonski?
Yes.
Mr. Rowe?
Yes.
Ms. Stanton?
Yes.
Dr. Unsinger-Vasero?
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, we will move on to the capital transfer. Dr. Pritchard?
Yes, so we've been finalizing the numbers with the auditors and we're pretty close, a little lower, but we're pretty close to the remainder that we estimated last time with our financial year-end review. And so in light of our desire to do capital projects, I would ask that you approve the additional capital transfer of $834,000 from the general fund to the capital projects fund for 1920 and not allow that to fall to the fund balance.
So
Moved by Ms. Stanton, seconded by Dr. Jablonski. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please, Paula.
Mrs. Sprouse?
yes.
Mrs. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Fetzer?
Yes.
Mr. Heath?
Yes.
Dr. Jablonski?
Yes.
Mr. Rowe?
Yes.
Ms. Stanton?
Yes.
Dr. Unsinger-Vasero?
Yes.
Dr. Zimmerman?
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, we'll move on to the sick leave MOU. Dr. Palmer.
So the board has approved an MOU with LAEA regarding the use of administrative leave should an employee have to quarantine, become ill with COVID-19 or care for a family member. And in trying to keep with parity with our other work groups, what we're asking the board is to extend that same opportunity to members of ASME as well as our support staff and Act 93 employees. We would need to have an MOU with AFSCME as they have a bargain contract with the district.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Jablonski, second by Dr. Zimmerman. Any discussion?
It says until January 1st. I mean, I imagine that there could be more guidance that comes out. So we have to revisit this as of January 1st.
Yes, this is tied directly to the acronym for it, John. I'm looking at the federal Corona Leave.
Oh, yeah, FFCRA, yeah,
So,
Rona leave.
you know, as we know, there's lots of discussion in Washington as to where and everything will go, so whether or not that would be extended. The administrative leave allows the employees to still accrue time in teasers. If they go for the FFCRA leave, they're not teasers eligible. So this preserves people's retirement options. But one would want to find out at the end of 25, 35 years that they have to be at work another month in order to get their full teasers benefit.
Any other discussion? All right, roll call vote, please, Paula.
Mrs. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Fetzer?
Yes.
Mr. Heath?
Yes, sorry.
Dr. Jablonski?
Yes.
Mr. Rowe?
Yes.
Ms. Stanton?
Yes.
Dr. Unsicker Fisero?
Yes.
Dr. Zimmerman?
Yes.
Mrs. Browse?
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, next item is the revised administrative secretary, Mrs. Moser.
Thank you. You might remember that most recently we had the vacancy in the administrative secretarial position in the special ed office. And whenever we advertise, interview, and fill a position, we also examine the job description. What came to light was an important piece that we bring forward tonight. You may remember previously when the position was vacant, we did a bit of an analysis as to whether or not it needed to be a 12-month position. And at the time, the feeling was that it was not work that encompassed much of a summer's time. Experience has shown us quite differently. The amount of paperwork, the regulatory pieces, the getting ready in this case for the special ed auditing, which does not decrease. If anything increases, the scrutiny paid to the accuracy of the paperwork. And please appreciate even the ripple effect of the current work environment for special education services delivered in unique times. We're back at a point where we know full well this is 12-month work, similar to our other administrative secretarial positions. In order for the individual whom we have placed in that position to make this lateral move and have her not only salary but accrued vacation days remain intact, which is all well, fine, and good, it is honestly the scope of the work that is 12-month work. So we asked to do that here with this formal revision, which is actually a return to the idea that it be a 12-month position.
So moved.
Second.
Motion moved by Dr. Jablonski, seconded by Mrs. Browse. Any discussion? Since this isn't technically spending money, but it's shifting some, going back to spending more in the job description, we will go ahead and do a roll call vote as well.
Mr. Fetzer?
Yes.
Mr. Heath?
Yes.
Dr. Jablonski?
Yes.
Mr. Rowe?
Yes.
Ms. Stanton?
Yes.
Dr. Unsicker Fisero?
Yes.
Dr. Zimmerman?
Yes.
Mrs. Browse?
Yes.
Mrs. Clark?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Next item is the full-day pre-K counts program. Dr. Fairchild, or Mrs. Moser, whoever wants to take
I
that.
can take this one.
All right.
Well, we currently do have a full-day pre-K counts. We need to officially submit 2 documents to the Department of Education. So a database can be updated because we're changing the status of the school. So the board has to adopt a formal motion for the pre-K counts program to be a full-day program along with a letter indicating that that is. So this then helps us report all of the data that we need to report to the state through the PEN system. So it's really just a matter of moving paperwork so that we can close out the reporting that we need to do on an annual basis.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Dr. Jablonski, second by Dr. Zimmerman. Any discussion? All right, I'm going to do a roll call vote on this again. Please, Paul.
Mr. Heath,
Yes.
Dr. Jablonski,
Yes.
Mr. Rowe,
Yes.
Ms. Stanton,
Yeah.
Dr. Unsicker Fisero,
Yes.
Dr. Zimmerman,
Yes.
Mrs. Browse,
Yes.
Mrs. Clark.
Yes.
Mr. Fetzer.
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, our next item is the class of 2021 graduation project waiver.
So in some discussion with Ms. Reaver and Ms. Moser, as we contemplated what the school year would look like for our students this year and any modifications that we've made to the programming because of the current conditions, we found that the graduation project, while we want to maintain that as part of our program, this year, since many of the students are doing service projects or shadowing, they're out in the community, those opportunities are going to be available to them. And we also don't want to put students in a position of any additional risk if they're out in the community more so than they would be normally. So we're asking for a waiver, is that being a requirement? Certainly, if students are able to do something and get that experience, we still encourage them to do it, but it won't be required as part of their, let's say, their graduation in order to be eligible for graduation.
So moved.
By Dr. Jablonski, seconded by Mrs. Clark. Any discussion?
Was there any discussion of a replacement option, like making them take a badge and use it learning? Something that would be, approximately equivalent to the other.
The graduation project itself isn't required by the Department of Education. That's something we just maintain, and we wouldn't have done that if that were the case. I would recommend giving how we have some students who are in preschool, we have some students who are in a non-traditional hometown, which of course that would be counted towards that. But just currently trying to navigate everything that we're trying to do. It's a wonderful experience to have, but it may just be too much right now.
But I did hear you say, which I was happy to hear, that if a student does have some project that they are interested in working on, that would be okay with, that on a totally voluntary basis, a student could proceed. Because I remember hearing of projects of students over the years that they might have been, assembling a portfolio that they were counting on for college application or something like that.
Absolutely. And some of the projects that students have done have really become part of the fabric of what we do here in the school district. It wasn't just something once and done. Other students have then built upon it and sustained it. So we would always encourage students to do that, find a time for them to be able to do it, but we just don't want to have the added pressure that it must be.
Right. And Jen, can I just add the other part of it is to award credit when we don't really have that equity of all the students being able to have the opportunities. That drove part of the request and the pressure, because some of the students were feeling like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get this in? Or maybe their project required them to go outside of the area, but it wasn't necessarily a safe place that they were going to be going in terms of their cases and things that they're just, we always encourage students to volunteer and to, take the advantage of those opportunities that they've done before. It just wouldn't be in an official capacity from the school or leaving school to go do those.
Any other discussion? All right, we can do this by voice vote. All in favor of approving the graduation project waiver, say aye.
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 Motion carries. We'll move on to the student tuition waiver. Dr. Palmer.
As we've done in the past, if there is a student who has matriculated with us, but for whatever reason needs to move out of the district for the senior year and is in good standing, we extend this waiver to the student to be able to include his or her final year here at Lewisburg High School. Would also recommend that if approved, that it is approved with language stating that the student would continue in our program as the majority of students would do that in person right now. We would not pay for any charter school tuition that the student or private school tuition in
Second.
Moved by Dr. Jablonski, seconded by Mrs. Browse. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please, Paul.
Dr. Jablonski?
Yes.
Mr. Rowe?
Yes.
Ms. Stanton?
Yes.
Dr. Unsinger Fisero?
Yes.
Dr. Zimmerman?
Yes.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mrs. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Fetzer?
Yes.
Mr. Heath?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, our last item under the board action is the waiver for the student 2020-21 22 dash.
Whenever there's a violation of policy, we review the policy, and there is language in this specific policy that recommend a waiver for a student who committed an offense against that policy in lieu of other administrative consequences and supports that would be put in place in executive content. Outline of what the principal and I currently putting in place, and we're asking that the school board be
Second.
Moved by Dr. Jablonski, seconded by Dr. Zimmerman. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please, Paula.
Mr. Rowe?
Yes.
Ms. Stanton?
yes.
Dr. Unsinger Fisero?
Yes.
Dr. Zimmerman?
Yes.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mrs. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Fetzer?
Yes.
Mr. Heath?
Yes.
Dr. Jablonski?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, we'll move on to the board information. First item is the board president's report. I don't have anything additional this evening. Mrs. Moser, I'll move on to you for the assistant superintendent's report.
All right, my report lays at your place. It is an update on eSchool. We've talked about eSchool in a number of different ways here of late. I simply am sharing with you first a bit of a table that shows some current numbers. It's been mentioned that we've had students transitioning back into school, making decisions to change their mode of instruction. And so I share with you simply some numbers. We stand, and it certainly is changing and does change daily or often, but about 390 out of the 1899 are currently taking virtual education courses through our eSchool. And then I also shared with you the 3 significant subgroups of students that we certainly take extra attention towards sometimes, especially if we're looking here at the ability to provide the kinds of supplemental services and support resources for those individuals. So I share with you the breakdown for our English language learners, our IEP students, and our economically disadvantaged students. The second page attached to it is a bit of a narrative just to give you more of the story, if you will, of eSchool. I wanted to give you just a bit of the background of how we first began to provide online. And I think what's interesting is the reasons we were doing it, even as we began providing online education, and how that's changed over time. And so if you take the time and opportunity to read down through the narrative, you'll see some information about the expansion of the program over time, as well as our current use of it this year. I'm very pleased to tell you 21 staff members coming forward to assist our students in their virtual education. And we're appreciative of that commitment and involvement on the part of our faculty members. You heard principals tonight laud the work of so many staff members. I would add to that list the school counselors who have really had the task to enroll the students, help students understand what it is to be an online student, in many cases facilitate the understanding of the technology pieces with the parents, listen to the various pieces that are important even as they try to create a schedule and work to help the families and support the families. And our counselors have really had the lion's share of that effort here in the front 3 weeks of school. I'm happy to say at this point, every student's course selection for specific classes, K through 12, is now in place. And so, we feel we've turned a corner from getting set up, started, and oriented to now actually having routines and schedules and daily instruction taking place. And then finally, I wanted to tie together for you the initiatives that are going on kind of at the same time, left hand, right hand. So in the last paragraph, please understand that even as we're using prepared curriculum, we are also enabling our staff to post more and more of their own teacher-created, school district-created curriculum in an online format that will be easier to access and available and able to be used very productively for all our students. So the learning management system trainings, as we've talked about Canvas and Seesaw. So I wanted to be sure to bring it back around full circle and share with you that that's part of the larger picture of how we keep moving forward in the virtual learning world. Thank you.
The next item, board liaison committee report. Anybody have any report? We will then move on to the consent agenda. Are there any items that anybody would like to have removed and voted on separately? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda with the revised personnel report, including the deletion of the extra compensatory positions? We will hold those until we have the MOU in place. So we will hold those until our next meeting. Any other, I'm sorry, is there a motion to approve that with those revisions? Moved by Dr. Jablonski.
Second.
Second by Dr. Zimmerman. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please, Paula.
Ms. Stanton?
Yes.
Dr. Untitled?
Yes.
Dr. Zimmerman?
Yes.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mrs. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Fetzer?
Yes.
Mr. Heath?
Yes.
Dr. Jablonski? Mr. Rowe?
Yes, with the exception of the personnel report because there's a family member on it. Oh, is that what you did? Okay, I got it. Just wanted to make sure I covered my bases.
Motion carried.
Moving on to director's comments. Mary Ann, start with you.
Glad everything's going so well. Thank you all for all your hard work. Thanks to Kathy for the update on school. It's nice to see these numbers and I look forward to reading the narrative. It was also just great to hear about the little glimpses of normal that are becoming more and more common. Particularly, it was nice to hear Paula's account of Broadway Bistro. I'm going to second that. I think it's great to hear the comments, the little things that the district is trying to do to keep things more normal for the students and the faculty. The fact that homecoming is trying to find a way for homecoming to take place, Broadway Bistro, the clubs at the middle school, the theme days, appreciation days, all of that, I think is really extremely important for the mental state of both the students and
I just think it's great that the students can do their extracurricular activities, whether it be arts, or sports, or cheerleading, band. I think they need that these troubled times, and to give them hope for a brighter future, which I'm sure is just around the corner.
Kathy, I'm good.
I'm good, thank you.
John?
Thank you.
Nothing to add.
Anybody joining us via Zoom? Tara, Corey, John, anything to add?
I'm good. Thanks.
Nope, nothing. Thank you.
Aaron?
I was super excited to hear about a 3-hour and 15-minute team meeting. Because I think it really is amazing evidence of how well everyone is working together as a team and rowing in the same direction. I think that should be recognized every time we have a chance to. And a message from my daughter who came home today. We're a month into school, right? And she said, you know, it seems like it must have been a lot of work. Can you say thank you, everybody? From her observation, even the little ones noticed that must have taken a lot of work.
Well, I would say that I scheduled the admin team meetings for an hour. I also do leave a buffer in there, but thank you for that on behalf of the team. We do have an opportunity to talk about items that come up on the regular agenda, but then there's just other things that come up, and it's good that everybody comes together and of course we did this via Zoom too, so we're alternating so that people can remain in the buildings and we don't lose that transit time. Again, just trying to stay as potted as we possibly can. Thank you to the team for that. I also want to thank the school board for your support and your faith. I know this was a difficult decision. There are a lot of unknowns and things were shifting and changing, and I know that all of the questions and all of the concerns came from a good place to keep everybody safe. And it is refreshing to hear that we're starting to bring back some of those things that are normal. And I know that the kids appreciate it, the teachers, and the staff appreciate it, and to update everybody about school bags and coats. As we know, our kids, particularly in the secondary, have everything in their school bags, which sometimes, especially our sixth graders, can possibly weigh more than the child itself. And so the principals are working on a plan to get kids in rotation before or after, or during some break in the middle, much of the masking break, out to their lockers. One of our issues has been the online textbooks and the integration with Clever and then into Canvas. So they are able to access on the website for Mifflin or whoever the textbook their online textbook. It's just getting that all hooked up into the single sign-on. As everybody can imagine, we're not the only school district in the country doing this, and it sometimes is a tech ticket with that company for the configuration for 3-4 weeks before they're able to service us. So it's been a supply chain in terms of service nightmare, I think, in a lot of respects. Just the capacity of many of these vendors and companies somehow didn't anticipate that there would be that much need and demand. So they're working as fast as they can. So we're getting that message out to the teachers. So hopefully that will alleviate what's being carried, because they can certainly access the textbooks online. I also want to thank the teachers who have been very creative in the ways they've tried to make all the students feel welcome, including our B-School students, maintaining those connections. They know that's how important that is. They've brought ideas forward to their principals. They've brought ideas forward to me on how they can, as we see how things are going, how we can maybe do some things differently so it's a little bit more normal. And we appreciate that. We can't think of all the good ideas. Our job is really to think about how to make it happen. We need you to have those good ideas. We encourage you to continue to bring those forward to us. And that's the end of my report.
I would just say I had a conversation with a parent today, and also almost identical conversation with a parent yesterday, just regarding their surprise and their pleasure that we're still in school. You're saying that, I think many of us weren't exactly sure how long we'd be in school, but just the fact that our students are cooperating and with all the precautions we put in place, it's really good to hear that there's So it's just really just a shout out to the students for cooperating, a shout out to the students for just going through as much of a normal process as they can right now, because I can't imagine being a student and going through these times, such a big step in their seniors all the way down to kindergartners. I mean, it's such a great time for them. So again, just a shout out to the students for everything that they're doing, their part to make sure everyone's staying safe and making sure that we're in school as long as we can. So just a little plug in there. Like I said, it's great to get the continued support from parents. With that, we'll move on to any citizens' comments to the board on non-agenda items. Are there any comments to the board on any non-agenda items?
Doesn't appear to be online, so no comments there.
And I just like a little press on that with the document. Thank you.
All right. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Mrs. Brown, seconded by Dr. Zablonski. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting adjourned.